Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Life in Private Staffing. Hope you're all well. We have got Adam on the show today with us today, who does something very different to what we've had before in the private sector. As you know, every week we have, or every 2 weeks now, sorry, every 2 weeks we have different guests on who are involved somehow within the private sector, offering some kind of service to our clients, ultra high net worth. So we've had all sorts of people from sort of house managers to butlers through to PAs, through to training specialists, and now we're on to swimming, which is something very different, but something that's sort of quite good timing as we head into summer, but also as we start sort of focusing a lot more coming out of the pandemic on our health, mental health, physical health, the health and well-being of our children. So I think it's a really sort of good time to have Adam on to talk a little bit more about what he does, what services he offers, and how we could potentially apply them, you know, to the lives of our employers. So welcome to the show, Adam. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Philippa. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice to finally video meet you.
Yeah, well, I've been watching your podcast for a while, Life in Private Staffing, and very excited to be on the show.
Oh, it's good to have you, and it's nice to have, again, as we say, we have different people on that have had successful careers in the private sector, and they, you know, work in the private sector. But I like having, you know, it's really interesting getting people on that do such different stuff, you know, you know, what you do is similar in the sense of what household staff do, but it's like just something a little bit different, and obviously probably targeted towards children, although we'll find out a bit more about who you work with. So let's sort of go back to the beginning then, shall we? So where did it all start for you? How did you get into this line of work?
Sure. So, Philippa, for the last 12 years, swimming has been my biggest passion, teaching to people of all ages how to be safe and confident in the water. I started when I was 16, like many in the leisure industry did. I started as a lifeguard, inspired by Baywatch with Pamela Anderson and David Hasselhoff. But the reality of being a lifeguard in the UK versus, a beach in California is pretty different. So I quickly learned that when I saw the swimming teachers come in, they'd have so much fun teaching the lessons, and they had such a positive impact on the children. So after watching the lessons for a year, I signed up for a course with the Swimming Teachers Association, and from then never looked back really. I taught swimming while I was at college. I taught swimming while I was at university as well. I flew out to Vietnam and worked for a charity for 4 months, obviously combating the drowning statistics out there, and then spent some time working as a scuba diving instructor in Bali in Indonesia. So I've always been working in the water.
There we go. I love that. I love it when people end up making a career of their very first job. Do you know what I mean? And we see that a lot, I guess, with butlers and people that work in service. They'll like work in their local cafe or restaurant at the age of 15, 16, and then they actually turn that into a lifelong, profession, which is brilliant. You were just fortunate to find your passion so young and so early in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I do count myself very lucky. Some people, it takes them entire lives to find out what it is that they, truly don't want to do. And I definitely, in between swim teaching and before swim teaching, worked a few jobs which I knew I definitely didn't want to do. I think we've all had those jobs. But yeah, I've just continued to kind of develop my skills as the years have gone on. So when people think of swim teaching, they think of, oh, it's just for children. But since then, I've specialized in teaching babies, those with disabilities, open water swimming, triathlon, and swimming really is one of those sports which you can do from the cradle to the grave. So whether you're, whenever you've got a baby, or whether you've got someone who's, my oldest client is 82 years old. And yeah, it really is a sport for everyone.
It really is, actually. And obviously in football, you can be a football manager or a football coach, and you don't need to have played football. Like, do you have to be a good swimmer? Are you a good swimmer to teach swimming?
Compared to Olympians, I would, I would say I'm nowhere near that standard, but I can certainly move in the water. And I think it's a great question. To teach swimming, I think, or to teach anything, I think it's important to a degree that you can lead by example. And yeah, I think definitely, some aspects of being a really good swimming teacher are positivity, patience, and perseverance. So when you teach swimming, you have to be positive. Lots of people might have had a coach who's been very negative and shouting from the side. People react best to positive reinforcement. So you've got to be positive. Patience is key as well, because people aren't going to get things first time. You've got to consistently be there and be patient with some people, because it takes some longer to learn than others. And obviously persistence. Swimming, you're not going to learn, some people aren't going to learn to swim overnight. Some are gifted and will progress really fast. Others, it takes a bit more time. But it's like anything, the more effort and the more time you put into it, the more you'll get out. So those are three characteristics I think are really important for a swimming teacher. But I think obviously being able to demonstrate and lead by example is really important as well.
Can everyone be taught to swim? Like, is that a fact, or will there be some people that will just never be able to swim? Surely.
I mean, there's some people who have a certain somatotype, so a certain body type, which won't lend itself to swimming. So people, and you might not know this, but people who are slightly more plump, they will definitely adipose tissue, so fatty tissue, floats much better than strong, dense muscle tissue. So people who are a bit more plump, they'll float better, and arguably, will be able to swim better. Those who are, really muscular, mesomorphs, they're going to be more dense and they might sink easier. However, with the correct technique and the correct guidance from an aquatic professional, in my opinion, anyone can learn to swim. So yeah, there hasn't been a client I've had who, hasn't been able to learn. So so to answer your question, yes, anyone can learn to swim.
Anyone can learn to swim. This is probably really naive of me, but I just thought everyone learned to swim as kids. I assume not, because there are obviously adults that can't swim, but I just thought when you go to school, you're dumped in a pool, you're taught to swim, but maybe that, I don't know, obviously not. You must come across lots of people who just literally can't swim.
So it depends on the country and kind of what the government prioritizes. So here in the UK, for example, the government provides swimming lessons to primary school children once a week. I'm not entirely sure if that's continued throughout the last year of lockdowns, but there was a statistic which came out a few years ago, which said that 50% of primary school children, so by the time they reach 11 years old, 50% of primary school children cannot swim 25 meters in the UK. So that's half, can't swim 25 meters. And because of the kind of government's lack of provision of swimming lessons, that's why, private swim schools such as mine, Angel Swim London, that's why we've been in demand, and that's why, in the last 3 years, we've grown at such a rate.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in a minute. As a parent, though, like, I would be petrified if my children couldn't swim, because you never know when they're going to be near water. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we've got a responsibility to teach them not to run into the road, not to put their hand in the fire, how to swim. You'd think it's just one thing that will help me sleep at night, I think.
Absolutely. I'm obviously biased, but I absolutely, truly believe, that everyone should be taught to swim. And to be honest, the earlier the better. I've traveled to lots of different countries where drowning, there's drowning statistics are a huge problem. So I mentioned I worked for a charity called Swim Vietnam earlier. They've got huge drowning statistics, and they did some incredible work where we'd go to different rural parts of the country. We'd run a swim teacher training course. So we'd train local members of the community to be teachers. Through funding from Australia and various other countries, we'd be able to build an above ground swimming pool for about £10,000. And then we'd say to the community, right, so we've got a team of teachers, here's your pool, and off you go. So we wanted to create a kind of long-term sustainable solution. And that was just one example of another country which is less developed, and some of the measures, which I was involved in. And teaching in another country as well poses some challenges. If English isn't the first language, really put my skills to the test. But swimming, luckily, body language is a universal language. So, Vietnam was the first country I went to where I realized that drowning is a global issue. And teaching swimming, it's one of those skills that you can literally take around the world, because no matter what country you're in, everyone needs to learn to swim.
And I guess if you're able to teach people that don't speak English, you must be able to teach deaf people as well. It's the same.
Absolutely. The demonstrations that you do in swimming lessons for different ages, they are universal, but specifically for those clients I have who are deaf, learning specific sign language is even more helpful. There's a kind of sign language called Makaton, which is used in lots of special educational needs schools, which I've had to learn in order to accommodate some of my clients. Who I've got such a diverse range of clients, especially when it comes to special needs. So those with autism, those who are deaf, some who are blind, some who have hemiplegia, so they can only use kind of one half of their body due to strokes or things like this. So swimming, it's absolutely incredible for those with special needs, because it's not just a life-saving skill, it's also something where it has so many therapeutic benefits. And yeah, some kids, they might be having a really tough time out of the pool, at school or out with their friends, but as soon as they come to the pool, it's that opportunity for them to self-regulate, self-express. And once they're in the water, I've got one client in particular who's got autism, and as soon as he gets into the pool, no matter how bad his day has been, you just see his face light up. And then it's so rewarding, giving him back to his parents or to the nannies in a much better frame of mind than he was before.
That's so nice. I think that's such a nice, rewarding role for you to have people that are so out of their comfort zone in normal day-to-day life, that then come into their own when they're in their pool. And how nice for you to be able to nurture that. Yeah, that's super lovely. So when in your career then did you make the shift into the private sector, working, doing home visits, working, one-on-one with private ultra high net worth families?
Sure. So I think it was back in 2017 when I was teaching at Purple Dragon Private Members Club in Chelsea. I had quite a few clients who were lucky enough to have swimming pools at home say to me, Adam, would you mind paying us a visit at home to run swimming lessons? So that was kind of the first point where I was introduced to the ultra high net worth sector. A year after that, I had a client from the Middle East. They flew me out to their holiday residence in Mallorca, where I ran my first holiday swim crash course. So they had two young boys, and we do a swimming lesson in the ocean in the morning. We do a swimming lesson in the afternoon at the family villa swimming pool. And then in the evening, we'd do sports and exercise in the evening. So for the staff and for the nannies, it gave them a bit of a break from looking after the boys. For the boys, the progress that we saw was incredible, because if you're swimming twice a day, 6 days a week for 2 weeks, the progress was absolutely fantastic. So everything they learned on the Monday was built upon on the Tuesday, consolidated on the Wednesday. So it was the equivalent of 10 to 12 weeks of progress in 2 weeks. And then obviously the principals, I made sure I communicated with them throughout, kind of daily feedback, videos and pictures, which obviously they treasured and loved. And yeah, it was, I was in between lessons. They let me go out on their stand-up paddle boards in their private beach, and I was paddling along and thinking, I could get used to this.
Yeah, it's all right.
So that was, so that's 2017. That was 2017, 2018. Then fast forward to today, I now obviously run the swim school, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But fast forward to today, I also run a home visit swimming service here in London. So serving places like Kensington, Chelsea, Notting Hill, St John's Wood and Wimbledon. I run that 7 days a week, teaching babies, children and adults. And these clients in particular, I've been very fortunate to work with royals, VIPs, celebrities and high profile international families. So that's where it all started. That's where we're at the moment. And looking to the future, you know, this year, I really want to establish myself as the go-to swimming and fitness solution for ultra high net worth families around the world.
Yeah, nice. And there's definitely going to be a need for it, I think, because I think there was already a need for it anyway. Maybe people just didn't have access to it or didn't have it readily available. Someone come to the house because also she's looking after the kids for them. Like do you know what I mean? You're entertaining their children, but while adding value to them. But coming out of the pandemic, when with children have been cooped up and everyone's made sacrifices and everyone's health's been affected and all the rest, I think people are going to be craving these kind of services even more so coming out of this, wanting to make up for lost time and improve just general wellness and well-being. So that's really exciting. Did you feel when you started working with ultra high net worths on a one-on-one basis, in opposed to your class lessons, group lessons back in the gym, did you just move fairly naturally, or were you consciously aware of their status? Like, did it make you nervous at all, or did you just?
That's a great question. So I started off at 16 teaching in leisure centres, and now 12 years later, I'm teaching in billionaires' homes here in the UK and around the world. I think but the one thing that's the same is that bond between mother and child or father and child. That bond is so strong, and as a teacher, you know that the parent wants the very best for that child, and you've got a responsibility. First of all, teaching swimming, it's an incredible life-saving skill, but also when that child's in the pool, it's your responsibility to make sure that they're progressing, but also to make sure they're safe. Definitely, for that particular client from the Middle East, when I was teaching at the Villa Pool, there was a kind of a 2-tier balcony. And I do remember, even though I'd at that point had 9 years experience of teaching swimming, so I'd taught 10,000 hours, so what you would call an expert, but I was sat there with the child who had special needs as well, and I looked up and there was maybe 10 to 15 family members all kind of looking down, and I did have a bit of a lump in my throat and a few butterflies. I was thinking, oh God. But then as soon as I started teaching, it's what I know, it's what I love, and it's what I enjoy the most. So, a bit of a moment there. But then I think when you deal with these people, you need to remember that you are the expert in your field. So you can, I know that I can add value. I know that I am the expert in terms of swimming. So I can, as long as I communicate and educate them on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, I don't think there's anything to be scared of or to be intimidated by. And also, that you do need to, whoever I speak to, whether they're the caretaker, the cleaner, or the principal, you treat everyone the same. And as long as it's with respect, that's fine. And also I think with principals, if you kind of, hold yourself well, if you're confident, then they'll also respect that too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it doesn't take long once you move into the sector and you sort of start working for ultra high net worth families, you soon realise they are just normal families, like totally normal families. You just want to be treated like normal families. And I think you'd hit the nail on the head really. Like if you're confident in your service offering, then that's all they want to see. Like, do you know what I mean? No one likes, there's nothing worse than a nervous hairdresser, for example, or nervous, do you know what I mean? Like whoever's, even like just normal people, like if anyone's like doing a service for you, you want to see confidence at whatever level. I just always think with children, it's just an added pressure, isn't there? I feel like, because like kids are our world, in any level of family. And like you say, it's you're in a pool and you're responsible for their safety, and kids need to like you and do as you say. There has to be that level of control, and especially if it's your first lesson with a kid, you don't even know them really, yet you need to trust that they're going to listen to what you say. I suppose you're in the water with them, aren't you?
Sure, yeah, up until a certain age. I think at around 6 or 7 years old, once they're swimming a good distance with 25 meters, it's then better to get out of the water. But definitely, I start teaching from 6 weeks, babies of 6 weeks old, so absolutely in the water. And definitely as they're from 3 up to 8 years old, I'm inside the water, making sure they're safe, and I can demonstrate to them as well. But I think you're completely spot on with what you said there. Teaching swimming is a balance, because I've got two kind of parties that I need to make happy. Number one is the principal. Of course, they're paying extremely good money, but they in exchange they expect good results and good progress. So I've got to make sure that every lesson the child is progressing and getting better at swimming. But at the same time, I've got to make sure that the child is having fun and that they're enjoying themselves. So it's a balance between obviously achieving both of those things. And sometimes I'll get some children who they might have had a really jam-packed schedule of karate, football, Spanish, private tutoring, etc. So by the time they get to the lesson, they might be feeling quite tired, or they might have just had a bad day or whatever. So I've also kind of got to be a bit of a counselor and a therapist, and maybe start off with some games just to kind of lift up their mood and get them happy again. And once you've made them laugh, sometimes we've got to be a bit of a clown. Once you've made them laugh and got them happy, then and most importantly, once you've won their trust, and that can take a while, but once you've won their trust, that's where the kind of the progress begins. But I think it's really important to have a really good level of communication with the staff, so the nannies, the chief of staff, and also the principal, and make sure that everyone is working together. Because especially if you have nervous swimmers, I often say to the nannies, well, at bath time, can you make sure that X wears goggles at bath time, or make sure that you wash their hair and even get a bit of water on their face, just so that they can improve their confidence. And also just talk about swimming outside of the lessons if they're really nervous. Talk about swimming, and also incentivizing the children. You can use certain techniques to help them. If you do great swimming with Adam today, you'll get X, Y, Z. So it's definitely a team effort when working with ultra high net worth individuals.
Just a personal question, not personal to you, but personal to me. At what age, like you teach 6 weeks old, from like when are you meant to dunk your baby underwater? Because me and my husband have thought about this.
Sure. Okay. So you asked a brilliant question. So I'd definitely recommend submerging your baby under the guidance of an aquatic professional. Yeah. So when it comes to baby swimming, there's so many benefits to baby swimming: physical, mental, social, and emotional. In terms of the physical, it's swimming can help with their strength, their stamina. It improves the strength of the heart and the lungs, their coordination. It's a fantastic way of you bonding with your baby. And I can talk until the cows come home about baby swimming. Perhaps we'll talk a bit more about that later. Yeah. But to answer your question, when should you dunk your baby? Babies are born with a natural gag reflex. So they're born so they spend 9 months in an aquatic environment. So they're much better adapted to water than we are as adults. So when they come out, if you pour a cup of water over baby's head, and the correct method is, first of all, demonstrating on yourself, saying, "Mummy, ready, go," pouring a cup of water, and then practicing with your baby. So, "Johnny, ready, go," pouring a cup of water. Over time, if you practice that consistently every day, then there'll come this incredible moment where you'll say, "Johnny, ready, go." You'll pour a cup of water and you'll see him go, and close the eyes in anticipation of that water being poured. So they've turned that natural neonatal reflex into a conscious action. And when the baby demonstrates that they're consciously holding their breath, then that is when you can start to submerge them. It's really important that when you are doing these practices, though, that you treat the baby with love, respect, and understanding. So if you pour some water over baby's head after saying the cue words name, ready, go, and they cry and they're really upset, do not pour any more water on there, because you want to create a loving, happy environment and establish a lifelong love of the water. You don't want fear and anxiety to be an attachment that they make to the water. So yeah, having done a few weeks or a few months of conditioning with the cups, name, ready, go, and making sure that they're happy and calm and treated with love and respect. And once they're demonstrating that they're closing their eyes and holding their breath, that is when you can start doing submersions. But again, I'd recommend you do that under the guidance of a aquatic professional.
Oh my God, right. So I've basically screwed up my toddler's life basically then, because we didn't do any of that and we just dunked him in the pool, literally just dunked him in the pool. And now we cannot wash his hair. He absolutely hates his face getting wet. Having said that, he's fine in swimming and splashing around and stuff, but washing his hair and getting water in his eyes, he absolutely hates. Anyway, I will use this for baby number 2. Sorry, Freddie, you're my practice.
Sure. But for Freddie, it's not too late for Freddie. Swimming, it starts at bath time. So if you're able to have some toys which you use at bath time, and obviously if you demonstrate on yourself first, then he'll understand what's coming. And also positive reinforcement after you've done the cue words and done the practice. As long as you give him lots of praise, and hugs and kisses afterwards, you'll get him to create a positive attachment to it. So it's not too late for Freddie. And for little one on the way, I've got an ebook which I shared on LinkedIn the other day, which I'll send to you for some bath time activities you can do.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay, right, bath time tonight. Honestly, I've been such a cruel mum. I've just been like, Freddie, shut up. Just took it over his head. I'm sure I'm not the only person. It's good though. It just goes to show, isn't it? There's like, there's loads of little things that aren't difficult that you introduce so early as 6 weeks that are really going to sort of help shape how they're going to be in the water and stuff. So yeah, really good. So where are we today? So we've got Eden Swim, which is your business where you go to private homes and do one-on-one lessons. Then you've got Angel Swim. Talk to us about Angel Swim.
Sure. So Angel Swim London is a swim school which I set up 3 years ago. And the biggest complaint I would get when I first started teaching was, Adam, how comes my child, little Johnny, isn't making much progress? And my answer would be, well, I've got half an hour and I've got 10 3-year-old children who I've got to teach. So there's only so much I can do in that half an hour period. So the three elements which I really wanted to incorporate into this swim school was, first of all, small classes. Obviously, the smaller the classes are, the faster the progress will be and the better the customer service will be if you have smaller class sizes. Number 2 is private, warm swimming pools. We've all gone to a leisure centre before where it's freezing cold and there's some kind of, it's not been cleaned correctly. The pools that we use are hydrotherapy pools, which are heated between 30 to 33 degrees. So they're nice and warm. They're nice and shallow as well. And we also use platforms, which are fantastic for when children reach, 1 year old to 18 months, where they start walking. So nice private warm swimming pools. And then the third element is highly qualified, highly experienced swimming teachers. So all of our staff aren't just qualified with the Swimming Teachers Association. I traveled to Australia and met a guy called Laurie Lawrence, and he's got an online training platform called Worldwide Swim School. So all of our teachers have done this almost like swim university. There's online modules and quizzes and assignments which you have to complete, which gives them a really thorough understanding of baby swimming, toddler swimming, and child swimming. So all of my staff have completed that. Obviously, they're DBS checked as standard. And also, they're all qualified with a company called Autism Swim, which is another specialist qualification. And I spent some time with the founder, Erica Gleason, out in Australia. and yeah, saw the work that they were doing, and everything I learned out in Australia, we've put into the program, the swim program here in London. So yeah, Angel Swim London, small class sizes, highly qualified and experienced teachers, and private warm swimming pools, with zero distractions. That's kind of our ethos. And we operate in Chelsea, Putney, and Balham. We have about 500 clients across London. And yeah, I've got an incredible team of teachers who deliver those classes from Monday to Sunday. And I'm really proud of the team that we've got. They're a very talented group of swimming teachers, and I'm so excited for us to get back into the water in 4 weeks' time, on April 12th, because it's been a long time coming.
I was going to say, so we can sort of move on to a little bit about how COVID's affected you, because to me personally, professionally, and a lot of the listeners who work in the private sector, like COVID just obliterated our industry, and those that were looking for work March last year were just sort of screwed because everybody stopped recruiting. Those that sort of had to move jobs or who were let go during the year were just really struggled. So a lot of people were affected by this. Ultimately, especially Silver Swan, we put stuff in people's homes, and when households can't mix, that doesn't happen. So even for us, like, we were hit so hard. So, and I assume for you, pools were shut. You had to shut your pools, I assume. How was your year?
Rubbish. Yeah, it was really challenging. The nature of our business is that we see our clients every week, and week on week we see our kids make progress and develop. And there's this social element. Children come to our classes and they see other kids, they interact, they share, they play, they grow, they progress. And it kind of, it was a real kick in the teeth, a year ago, when they said, right, swimming pools shut down, because all of those kids could then have to stop with their progress, which was tough. But the added element of being a business owner is my team of teachers. They're an incredible team, but they're all self-employed professionals. So what that meant was I couldn't put them on furlough. So a lot of them had to either find other jobs, or move back home with parents. But what we did do throughout from lockdown to lockdown, is we'd meet once a week via Zoom. We'd do training. I'd offer as much as I possibly could, bear in mind the circumstances. But I'm very excited for us to get back and get the kids ready just in time for summer, because before we know it, people might not be traveling internationally, but they'll definitely be heading to beaches in the UK, and it's really important that we get the children safe before summer.
I assume kids are going to have regressed as well in what they've learned. They're going to, if they haven't swam for a year, you're going to have to, there's going to be a refresh element, isn't there, to get them to where they were?
Absolutely. It'd be interesting to see kind of what level the regression goes to. Some may have gone back quite a few steps, especially those who are nervous. Some might get straight back on it and pick up from where they left off. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think in the next few weeks, I'll be my team and I will be sending out emails and social media posts, giving parents some tips on getting their kids prepared at bath time, so that when lessons do begin, the kids would have kind of built up to it. So I think it's really important, because swimming is unlike any other sport in the sense that it is a life-saving skill. Football isn't going to save your life. Ballet isn't going to save your life, but swimming absolutely will. So I think it's going to be in high demand come April 12th.
Yeah, definitely. And as I sort of touched on before, I think when pools and stuff open, there's going to be such a want of getting back to normal, but also like an investment into people's sort of like well-being and the well-being of the children, and just wanting things back as quickly as possible. And because obviously gyms and swimming pools are going to be opening before restaurants and pubs and stuff, you're going to have that little head start, I think, on things that people can do before they can do everything. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think I literally cannot wait to go swimming. I'm mega preggers. So there's not a lot I can do. So yeah, I can't wait if I can find something to fit in. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are in the same boat. So we've talked a lot about babies. Talk to me a little bit about the work you do with adults.
Sure. So as I said, swimming is a sport for all ages. I'm qualified to teach babies, children, but also adults. I'm a triathlete myself, so I swim very regularly, and I've got some events coming up this year. But when it comes to adult swimming, there's a spectrum of abilities. So I teach hydrophobics. So these are people. So there might be some people watching who had a really bad experience when they were younger. And since then they're like, nope, don't want to swim. But now they're thinking, well, actually, swimming could be a really good way for me to get stronger, to lose weight, and also to be a life-saving skill. So when they go on holiday, looking at the ocean, it's not somewhere that they fear, it's somewhere that they can go and enjoy. Or just like some of my clients, they'll have swimming pools in their homes, but until we started working together, they never would have used their pool. So there's hydrophobics. There's some people who might be watching who swim, who can swim well, but they want, some pointers on their technique, whether it's freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, or butterfly. I can give, and I kind of got a unique teaching method, which first of all focuses on water safety. So the ability to float and rotate is what I teach first. There's no point learning how to, do butterfly arms if you're going to fall into a swimming pool and drown. First of all, you need to learn to rotate and float. Once we've achieved that, I've then got a step-by-step process which focuses on body position, then legs, then arms, breathing, and timing. And it's a step-by-step process. So once we've mastered one, then we move on to the next and the next. So there's hydrophobics, there's those who want to improve their technique. And then I've also get a lot of requests for clients who are like, right, I want to take on my first open water swim or my first triathlon. And especially when it comes to triathlon, lots of people can run very easily, lots of people can ride a bike, but it's the swimming where there's the most improvement to be made. And as someone who's a triathlete myself, we talked earlier about leading by example. I've done these events, I know what to expect, and kind of some of the challenges that open water swimming also faces. So from hydrophobic to those wanting to take on their first triathlon at open water, I've got you covered.
Yeah, nice. Let's go on to that, some of your sort of charity work, because you do really good supporting of charities. And so tell me a little bit about some of the charity support and some of the events coming up and how we can sponsor you.
Sure, absolutely. So just going back, I talked a little bit about Swim Vietnam. That was back in 2015. In 2018 to 2019, I was involved in a charity project in Mozambique. Mozambique is one of the top 20 countries with the highest drowning statistics. So there was a real need to have an impact in that village in particular. So I flew out there and working very closely with the charity. Over a 2-week period, we taught 200 children to swim. We ran a swim teacher training course for local members of the community. So our work would have a lasting impact. So we'd, upskill them so that they could, provide swimming, for younger members of the community. And as part of that fundraise, I've set up a Virgin Money giving page, and we managed to hit our £5,000 fundraising target, which meant that we could build our own swimming pool in the community, which should be taking place this year. Obviously, COVID got in the way of any initial works. But that's so important for that particular project, because what we'd have to do is we'd get 40 children on the back of a pickup truck, and we'd all be kind of hanging off the side, and we'd have to drive 45 minutes along a dirt road to get to this swimming pool, which is very kindly lended to us. But building a swimming pool of our own would mean that we can teach infinitely more children how to learn to swim and reduce the drowning statistics out there. So really, really proud of that project. This project This year, so in 2020, I signed up for an Ironman triathlon, which is, I didn't really know what I'd signed up to until we started training for it. But it's a 3.6 kilometer swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then a 26-mile marathon on the end. So this is all in aid of the charity that we've been working with called Autism Swim. We want to raise $10,000 for the charity, and what that will do is enable 100 swimming teachers to receive the training that my team have had, and allow them to make their lessons more inclusive. So we'll be able to help more children with autism learn to swim. Children with autism are 160 times more likely to drown than neurotypical children. So, the money that we raise will have such a positive impact, because those hundreds of teachers will then go on to teach, hundreds of more children with autism. So that's the projects we're working on at the moment, and I'm sure we'll be able to put a link to the fundraising 100%. Page for this year. Because last year it was meant to happen on November 8th. So I've done 6 months of training, and 2 weeks before we went into another lockdown. So the new date is October this year. So I've got another 6 months of training. But yeah, very excited to raise that money for Autism Swim.
Ironmans are just mental. The biggest thing I've ever done is a marathon, and that was mental. But marathon, I think the marathon's the easy bit of the Ironman. You're swimming for what, 2-3 hours? You're cycling for, I don't know, what are you cycling for? 6-7 hours?
About 6 hours. 6, 7.
And then you're running for, 4-5 hours. Like, that's mental. I'll definitely sponsor you. So we'll put the link out and we'll get some money raised, hopefully. Where's your October one going to be based, in the UK?
No, the UK event was sold out, so I'll be heading to Cascais in Portugal. I've sold it to my girlfriend. I said to her, "Hey, wouldn't you love to go for a nice holiday in Portugal?" And obviously, the beginning part of that is me going through, probably one of the toughest challenges of my life. So yeah, very much looking forward to the event, but also the holiday after.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good for you. And I think if you're going to be pushing yourself to these limits, doing these things, to be doing it for a worthy cause is just like double win, isn't it?
Sure, absolutely. Well, yeah, every event I've done like this, it's always been for a charity, and it's, a really big motivating factor, and, something I think a lot of people can get behind. Yeah,
good. Well, we'll certainly sort of share it out. So, I could carry on talking to you for ages because I've got loads more questions I want to ask you, but I'm really sort of conscious of the time. So we'll sort of try and sort of get things wrapped up a little bit then. So in a nutshell then, so like you're obviously very passionate about what you do. So like what is it specifically that you love about working in the private sector and working with these kind of families?
I absolutely love the impact that you can have on a family which they didn't have before. So for example, I've got one client in St. John's Wood where I started off teaching just the 3-year-old girl, and after a few weeks they were like, hey, well, she's got a brother who's 5, you should start teaching him. And then a couple of their friends from school wanted to get involved as well, so I started teaching them. And then the mum also wanted to learn to swim. So that family, swimming isn't a particularly large part of their culture, and they've got one of the most incredible swimming pools I have ever seen. And I worked in a lot of pools, but that, what previously was just kind of a dead space in the home is now like the hub of the family home, where they're all learning to swim, having fun, becoming safe, pool parties, all those kind of things. But it's the progress and it's the confidence that you can instill in children and adults. That little kind of eureka moment where you see a child say, oh my God, Adam, I can float. I did that by myself. I can float on my own. Or where you see an adult, conquer learning to breathe to the side on their own. So instead of thrashing around in the water, getting exhausted, they can swim a really beautiful, smooth freestyle. So definitely seeing the progress, but also the confidence. All the confidence that you can instill in a child or an adult in the water, it can then transcend into other aspects of their life. So going back to that ultra high net worth family in Mallorca, the two boys that I taught out there, following that holiday, the mum or the nanny texted me and said, Adam, the boys are so much more confident. One of the boys at school would actively go and speak to other children, which he would never think of doing before. But, I think you can really instill a lot of confidence in children and adults in the pool, which they can take, and apply to the rest of their lives. So, that's probably, the most rewarding aspect of my job. So I'm very thankful and very blessed to have found a job I love.
And you're instilling just like a slice of healthiness, aren't you, into people's lives as well? Because it's a healthy place to be in the water, surely, like the general sort of movement and what that does for you physically and mentally.
Sure.
It's such a positive thing, a role to be playing, I think, to be promoting sort of health and well-being.
Sure. I describe swimming as a moving meditation. So when you swim, you need to coordinate your breath with your body. You need to get into a nice rhythm and a nice relaxed state of mind. My clients perform at their best when they're relaxed. And there's obviously the mental, obviously it's physically it helps you get stronger, lose weight, increase muscle tone and strength. But the mental aspect of things, it has such a profoundly positive effects on people's mood, not just because of the confidence, but chemically. After you swim, your brain releases serotonin, dopamine, endorphins. So these are all feel-good chemicals. So, when you walk out of the swimming pool and you've got, all my clients, when they leave the pool, they've got a big smile on their face because they've had a physical workout, but also mentally they feel uplifted. In the baby and toddler classes, we've got mums or dads or the nannies in the pool with the kids. After the child has performed a skill or done something particularly well, being praised and having a hug and a kiss, that skin contact will release oxytocin, which is that kind of feel-good love chemical. So yeah, as I said before, swimming's got so many benefits beyond the physical. And obviously I'm biased because I'm a swimming teacher and run a swim school, but I feel that it's something which everyone should take advantage of. And I'm just so excited to get back on April 12th.
Good for you. Well, you're making me want to go for a swim. So that's great. Well, that's a lovely place to leave that there. And I think that's been super helpful and super useful. And I think people listening should definitely look into your service. We'll put links to your Eden Swim and Angel Swim, along with the sponsorship stuff that you're doing for Autism Swim too, when we put this out. But I think also it's quite good for people to know you're there from a personal point of view, but those that are working in homes in London to know that these services are available, to recommend these to their principals who have children or even adults. So to get to know someone like you who's able to come to a house, that's something that I think people should be made aware of for sure. I think there's definitely going to be a market for you there especially over the coming year. So well, thank you very much for joining me. It's been really nice to get to know you. It's been really nice to find out a little bit more about what you do. If anyone's got any questions, they can come direct to you. What's the best way to contact you?
The best way to contact is via the website, which is www.edenswim.london. We're also on Instagram as well, and you can send me a DM here on LinkedIn if you've got any questions or like any tips. Always happy to help. And
you have got this new good ebook.
Yes, of course. So I've shared our first ebook this week, and we've got a second one coming out in the next few weeks, which is free, which will give you guys, parents, tips on how they can help prepare their children for when swimming lessons start again.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you to everyone for listening. As always, please tune in every 2 weeks. You know that we're here. Please come and follow us across our social platforms. Please rate and review us and all the rest. And if we can help you with your recruitment, if we can help you with your job hunt, then please come and visit us at silverswanrecruitment.com. That's a wrap. See you in 2 weeks, everybody. Cheers.